Thanks a lot from Pax Europiana here from Podgorica airport. I'm concluding my free country end of the summer tour. It was only a short tour and I was in Kosovo, in Albania, and now basically transiting through Podgorica towards Vienna back. And the situation is very dramatic. We had a very sleepy summer in Brussels, and the situation here in the Southern Balkans in the area of energy is very dramatic. Obviously not as dramatic as in Ukraine, where the Russians are continuing their war and where we have to hope for peace by NATO intervention and NATO membership of Ukraine. And it will go on the war until this happens, mark my words. But here in the countries which had 20 years ago the war, we are still now affected by the indirect effects, and especially the energy crisis is dramatic, and Europe has completely neglected the last 20 years given the task. And of course there was progress, but unfortunately we are still in a situation where there is massive energy import needed and it's very expensive. We are heading into a fiscal crisis in Albania, in Kosovo and in Macedonia, by the way, as well in Bosnia and in Serbia and in Montenegro, and we have only, and of course in Ukraine. So as I've said already many times, what we need is a European-wide fiscal package, like we had it in the COVID situation with 750 billion we had in COVID. This crisis, the war in Ukraine and the effects of the energy transition, of the decoupling from Russia, are much more expensive and much more important than even COVID. So we need a double because when you see recovery, nothing was destroyed physically by COVID. There were some people dying, that's very tragic. There was of course standstill of the economy. It was good to intervene, but the fact is that here in this war there is massive destruction in Ukraine. There is enormous costs for reconstruction. There is of course the costs of the economic and currency shocks to come, and also in the present, and of course there's the cost for the integration of all the countries into the European Union. That's huge, and that must be tackled together. Again, I repeat, Montenegro, Albania, North Macedonia, we have made good progress now. They all three must now come into the European Union in 2024. Bosnia and Kosovo in NATO. It's logical. Serbia must be isolated. No compromises with Serbia. They are with Russia and they must be isolated. And additionally, what is very clear is that Bosnia and Kosovo must get the EU candidate status, and the visa liberalization deal I have already outlined, that the Kosovo state is making a moratorium for the reciprocity on the northern Kosovo Serbs, but in exchange the EU gives the visa liberalization immediately in October. Such a success must be possible, and that's absolutely doable. So it's then additionally necessary the euro everywhere, but Serbia, and that's very important from Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, and also from Macedonia, Bosnia. I'm a bit tired because I woke up at 5 o'clock and I was the whole evening in action in Albania to promote investments in the energy sector, because this is so important. We have not enough European capital into these countries. We have not enough infrastructure. We still have no Adriatic highway. We still have not the energy infrastructure which we needed. And who will pay for it? The countries at the end of the fiscal situation, which are importing heavily into their energy system because they need to subsidize the system because of the low capacities of the consumers to absorb higher costs. Who will pay? Obviously, it must be under a European debt umbrella. There's absolutely no other way. The highways, the railways, the energy infrastructure in all directions, the gas infrastructure and all these things. Yeah? We have now gas here via the Trans-Adriatic pipeline, but most of the industry in the Southern Balkans is already in shutdown. The aluminium plant in Podgorica shut down, the steel plant in Elbasan shut down, in Kosovo, and I'm sure I was not in Macedonia now, but in Macedonia shut down. So the ultimate situation is that there is significant reduction of capacities already, and that's how countries do it. That's what in Germany they say as a worst case scenario and all these things. It's already happening in this country. And the three countries, Macedonia, Albania and Kosovo, my estimation is alone in this year they have already subsidized extra energy costs for about 1 billion euro. Yes, exactly, 1 billion euro. And where shall they get it from? So that's the situation here. And it's kind of dramatic. When the winter is coming, the wood prices are much higher. Wood is one of the key ways to heat the houses in the winter here. It's not as cold in the coastal area as in the inner Balkans, but still it's very cold and it's very deeply problematic. Yeah, I want to paint the optimistic picture because we had the best 3 months now of EU progress in many years, with the end of the Bulgarian veto and with a lot of other positive aspects in terms of EU enlargement in the summit and Ukraine candidate status. But the hard facts are we need more money here and it must come from Brussels, and we need a new debt package. We need also to accelerate now enlargement, the NATO allies faster into the European Union. And these beautiful countries will be an enrichment and an investment and a positive contribution in the long term. But now they need much more financial help. And I cannot understand why we still don't have this debt deal, which Mr. Lindner, whose resignation I think is necessary, is rejecting, because it's the one logical thing we could really do and it's so urgently needed. So here from Podgorica on this morning in the sun, after not having slept a lot, I call for fast-track accession and for a new debt deal to soften the blow of the energy crisis. And some words about Montenegro, I love it very much. There is now a new government crisis. This is not so important. You know, what we really need is to have a stable cross-party governmental coalition to get the main things done, and then to have early elections. That's my proposal here for Montenegro. It's not about personalities, it's about policies, and it's about fast-track EU accession. Good. More to come here from this very short stopover. From the next step is then from Vienna. Bye.